Welcome to Online Business Education with your host, Bob Caspi. This module covers the topic of customer financing, or how to get the needed funds to grow your business from your customer. In my opinion and in my experience, this has been the best source of capital. It isn't simply because it avoids dilution, since the funds are given in the form of a loan to be repaid from revenue obtained from the same customer. The reason is that there is no better party than your customer to vote on the real value of your solution with their own money. If they're not willing to provide financing, then it may mean that they really don't need your product, and that's important to know. So when you can force a customer to reach into their own assets to support your efforts, you have a strong endorsement of your idea. As well, if the customer is properly selected as one who has deep resources in comparison to the contract size, then they're also in a good position to increase the financial support if you need it. I have personally used this technique twice, and it has worked well in both cases. If you're attempting to start a consumer product business, your largest expense is going to be the cost of sales and marketing. It is estimated that 90% or more of a company's capital is spent on sales and marketing and 10% or less on product development over the longer term. In today's market, it can take extraordinary amounts of cash to grow a consumer business. A good example is Uber. They've raised so far a total of $24 billion over 22 rounds of financing using a combination of stock and debt. At this point, they have less than $6 billion left over and have therefore spent $18 billion in losses growing their business. In most cases, it's the cost of marketing and product development that consumes this cash. So if you're planning on starting a consumer products business, your only likely choices are going to be either to go to the equity markets or to find a rich distribution partner who will fund the marketing and sales effort. But now we'll get to my favorite way to raise capital, using your own customers, vendors, or channel partners' money in the form of debt. And along with it, getting their ability to analyze your product, the market, and apply their own capital, their own distribution strength, and even their own brand equity to its success. Vendors, customers, and channel partners all have strong financial motivations to see you succeed, and they can all help in more ways than simply providing you with cash. Often, one of these members of your ecosystem will offer to purchase equity in your company as part of this deal. You should resist this. It only complicates the deal and includes other processes and people from the partners organization that will place additional constraints on the deal and your behavior. Try to make the deal about the product only. Offer exclusivity as an enticement, but the exclusivity is conditional upon their ability to hold up their side of the deal, which includes performance milestones for them as well as you. The advantages of getting customer financing are many. It will make them more cooperative. You should offer to structure the deal in such a way so as to repay the debt from the proceeds of the sale. Note that the customer can report the loan as a pure balance sheet event, moving cash from a bank account to a deposit, and therefore it has no impact on their P&L. Once the development is done, the delivery of product is accretive in the form of additional profit for them. Now technically, this is not exactly true, since a diligent accountant might force a reserve against the debt. But my experience is that if the partner is large enough, this is often simply overlooked. When the product delivery starts, the loan is repaid. The customer can then show the benefits of the product on their P&L. For example, additional profit from reduced expenses of operation or the resale of your product. If you overrun your intended development budget, your partner can often be convinced to simply extend the loan balance until you're done. The only disadvantage is that the customer will likely want some sort of exclusivity. This isn't a problem if the partner also assumes responsibility to meet certain quotas, with the understanding that if the quotas are not met, the exclusivity will be lost. The developed IP is used to collateralize the loan. So if you fail to deliver, you lose the product. But that's still better than losing the company. To complete this session, I'd like to present a case example, one that I was personally involved with, Sound Vision Incorporated, and our channel partner, Olympus America. In 1995, I had successfully sold my prior company, Leaf Systems, to Cytex in Israel, and I had served my time as a division president for 3 years from the sale. On the last day of the last year, I quit and was fired on the same day. Although I didn't need another job, I couldn't see myself retiring at 47, so I was thinking about new opportunities. And while I could invest my own newfound funds into a startup, I really didn't want to. That money guaranteed my family's comfort moving forward, and I wasn't going to put it at risk. At the same time, I had a friend in the UK, a scientist with a laboratory, who had been able to create a new kind of image sensor called a CMOS sensor. CMOS was the same technology used to make microprocessors and was significantly less expensive than the current state-of-the-art image sensors as found in digital cameras at that time that were called CCDs, charge-coupled devices. We created an idea together to build a low-cost digital camera using his CMOS sensor and a team that I could build from my prior companies to create mathematical processing that would correct the images and make them as good as those found in CCD cameras. I made 10 cold calls to the CEOs of 10 imaging companies, including Kodak, Sony, and others. I did not know any of those individuals, and they did not know me. And only one answered the phone. It was Olympus America, and I was off trying to create a deal. I flew down to New York to the Olympus facility. It was a large modern building that housed medical and camera product sales and service, and I met with the CEO, Sid Brzezinski, and his team. I presented the product idea suggesting that the Sound Vision camera could be sold to them at half the cost of a competing CCD camera and be on the market at half the current retail selling price, yet with the same quality. They were intrigued and asked me what size purchase order I would need to be able to deliver. I said that if they provided me with an order for 100,000 cameras at $100 each for a total contract value of $10 million, I could build the camera. They loved it, and they agreed. But as I was leaving, at the door, I stopped and turned and said, "Sid, there's just one problem. We haven't designed the camera yet. In fact, I haven't even formed the company yet." He looked shocked, but he said, "Bob, you do know how to do those things, right?" I said, "Of course, no problem. We've done them before." So he said, "Okay, then go form the company, do the design, and deliver the cameras, and we'll pay you as agreed." I said, "Okay," feeling better, and was walking out the door, and stopped once again, and turned and said, "Sid, there's just one more problem. Sorry, but it's going to cost, by our estimate, about $3.2 million to design and tool the camera, and I don't have the $3.2 million to invest." Now, frankly, I did, but I wasn't going to invest it. So Sid said, "Well, Bob, now that's a problem. Where do you expect to get the money?" I slowly scanned the modern, impressive building that we were standing in, and I said, "I'm sure that you guys must have $3.2 million on your balance sheet. Why don't you just lend me the money as a deposit?" Sid snarled and said, "Well, what collateral do you have?" I held up my hand and said, "A purchase order from a billion-dollar company for $10 million. He said, "Okay," and so we did the deal. Now, it wasn't really all that easy, but the essence of what I said is true. There was no company or design, and Olympus loaned us, as a deposit on the order, $3.2 million to be paid back at a rate of $32 per camera for each of the 100,000 cameras. We collateralized the loan with the IP that we were developing that we allowed his lawyer to hold during the contract. Just to summarize the deal, I would create a new company called Sound Vision Incorporated. I would staff it with the engineers and manufacturing people needed to develop a new CMOS-based digital camera. Olympus agreed to provide a purchase order for 100,000 cameras at $100 each for a total of $10 million to be delivered in roughly 12 months. They would also provide $3.2 million of loan in the form of a deposit. Payments of that loan were according to the development and tooling schedule, where Sound Vision would demonstrate having achieved a milestone before being able to receive the next loan advance. The developed IP would collateralize the loan, a copy of which would be sent to Olympus's attorney as each milestone was met. When deliveries would begin, the loan would be repaid at a rate of $32 per camera. Olympus would provide assistance when needed for technology or product definition. Olympus was given exclusive rights to this camera and its derivative designs unless they failed to continue the purchase of the product or its derivative products at a level of a minimum of $10 million per year. Prior to entering into this contract, Olympus conferred with their own retail sales partners, key customers, and their own technologists to confirm our marketing assumptions and our product assumptions. This alone had tremendous value for us in that it prevented us from making a product that was unsaleable. The lessons that I learned from this were as follows. First, you must take charge of the negotiating process. Your partner likely does not have experience in doing this type of deal, and it's easier if you just lead the process. But you must behave in such a way so that you build the trust of the partner. You do so by creating terms and conditions that proactively protect their interests along with your own. Do not try to outsmart them. If in the review process they discover a loophole that was designed by you to be able to take advantage of them, you will lose all credibility and likely the deal will crater. Once they no longer trust you, you will not be able to do this deal. You must move the deal quickly. Time is not your friend. Do not pretend to be bigger than you are. The value that you bring is the product or service and not the asset strength. Therefore, require that they make payments in a timely manner. Do not get wrapped around any of the silly contract terms inserted by their legal teams. They don't matter. You want an opportunity to succeed. The value that you represent is your ability to move quickly and creatively. That is what they are buying. As long as you continue to represent that type of asset, they will not discard you. You must therefore constantly be thinking about the next product and the next way that you will bring value to the relationship. The ending of this story is an interesting one. It was Christmas of 1995. I received a telephone call from Sid. He was in Japan at the annual Olympus corporate meeting. Sid said, "Bob, I have some bad news. My boss, the CEO of Olympus Japan, is insisting that I pull out of our deal." I replied, "But Sid, the product is done. It works. We have 100,000 units in production. What should I do with all of the assets?" "Keep it," he replied. "I'm sorry, but my boss said that Olympus America is only a sales organization that has no right to develop its own products. It exists only to sell the Japanese products. And even though I believe that the market wants and needs your product, I cannot win the argument. I'm sorry." So there I was with 100,000 CMOS cameras. I quickly stopped production and had the Olympus brand taken out of the mold. My team and I quickly registered for the next CES show in February. It's the largest consumer electronics show in the world, and we presented the product as finished and available. There were many takers since there was no risk, and we sold the 100,000 cameras quickly. Our company had been formed, we had cash in the bank, and our story continued. Many of the students that I have told this story to wonder why Olympus simply didn't steal the idea and do it themselves. It's not that they didn't think about it, but their own internal development groups said that it would cost more and take longer if done internally. As well, the CFO said that the $6 million that it would cost them to do it internally would have to be taken as an expense and would reduce their profitability. This is not unusual. Large companies often look to smaller companies to do their development off of their own P&L. For me, this was the way to start a company without committing any of my own cash or selling any stock. And as I have traveled the world and met thousands of entrepreneurs, I have learned that I'm not the only one who has done this. Many have, and clearly many more should. Thank you.